welcome to MROS Spotlight Series. Today we're going to be talking to Dr. Tammi. Tammi is a certified personal and executive coach through the College of Executive Coaching and an active member of the International Coaching Federation. With over 200 hours of coaching experience, she has worked closely with executives to increase their executive presence, transition from technical experts to strategic leaders, and leverage adaptive leadership skills to excel as peak performers in new roles. Tammi also helps leaders identify their role in shaping and shifting organizational culture to drive meaningful, sustainable change. Beyond coaching, she has been deeply involved in the formal and informal mentorship, including serving as an executive mentor with the Women's Bureau, guiding emerging leaders to achieve transformative growth. Tammi is right here. Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm good.
So,
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So let's start by you telling us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I like to say that my life is a mix of purpose, people, and possibility. I'm a wife, a mother of 8 kids, young adults, 4 by birth and 4 by love. And my best friend is Duchess, my dog, the Shih Tzu, who goes everywhere with me. I'm a proud New Orleanian, which means that culture, resilience, and community are in my DNA. That's who I am. My journey has been anything but linear. The way I landed here has been a result of twists and turns and just circumstances. But all of them worth me going through the journey and landing where I am right now. I believe in meaningful conversations, tough questions, and those are things that are at the root of the work that I'm doing right now. Everything has a purpose. Every conversation leads you to new insights, and it's about those things that help me with family, with work, with my social life, etc.
I love it. And you look great, by the way.
Thank you.
Now let's talk about Diamond Consultant. Tell us a little bit about Diamond Consultant and what inspired you to start Diamond Consultant.
Oh, that's a great question because unlike a lot of executive coaches, this was not in my plan. I was already deep into my professional career. And the reality is, Myrtleyn,
Yeah.
I actually hit a brick wall. And when I hit that brick wall, I actually had the privilege of having access first to mentors, but I realized I needed an executive coach because I hit places where I did not know how to navigate on my own and continue the growth that I had been used to in my career. So getting an executive coach was the first insight. It helped me to gain insight into things that I just didn't have the skills or the tools at the time to navigate the systems and the challenges that I was going through. And I'll tell you, there were two core pieces of working with an executive coach that I think really helped me to lean into doing this work after I had the experience. One was the first thing my coach helped me with was to gain more self-awareness and insight.
Right.
So she wanted me to really focus on what was happening and making sure that I wasn't doing anything to cloud the issues around the external forces. I think a lot of times we forget that we still have room to grow.
Right.
And a part of the work that we did together was really around taking a closer look at myself and making sure that I understood, what I could have been doing to contribute to some of the challenges I was having
Yeah.
and what I could do better. So that was the step one, is really like cleaning up your own house. So making sure that you're not doing anything that sort of clouds the issue. The
Right.
second step was really focusing external. And because I had did that inside work, now I could clearly see the external forces that I had to deal with, right? So now those were no longer cloudy. There was a lot of clarity in what was happening externally. And a part of that process was, how do I now develop the skills and the tools to address those external dynamics, right? So
Okay.
we began to think about, how do you apply, how do you respond effectively and in the most appropriate manner? Because you can respond, it doesn't mean it's appropriate, right?
Yeah.
So how do you respond in the most appropriate manner to get the maximum or the desired result that you wanted to get? And so it was after that experience where I gained so much insight and clarity that I thought, oh my God, I want to do this for others, right? I want to
Right.
really help other people to really
Achieve
gain
it.
that, because I knew so many people who had excelled in their careers and they hit a brick wall. And hitting that brick wall, we don't see what we contribute, and then we don't know how to respond. So that was the work that experience actually led me to think about becoming an executive coach myself.
Yes, inspire you to do that and help others. That's amazing.
Yes.
You are amazing. You have inspired me in my journey as well. And I'm very appreciative of the work that you do and how you support the people around you. Now, can you tell us a little more about the service that Diamond Consultant offers and what makes your approach unique?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's a great question. So I focus on executive coaching and leadership development, and I do that for both the individual and at the organizational level. All of my services are designed to help professionals and our organizations really meet, extend, and get to their peak performance, right? But what makes, I think, Diamond Consultants different is me. I have experience at the nonprofit level, at the government level, in philanthropy. And a part of that means that I'm not as much focused on the technical pieces of that,
Mhm.
but really having those experiences as a leader myself
Yeah.
gives me some insight in the right questions to ask the client. I think the second piece is it's a partnership. A lot of people don't know that working with a coach is really about having an accountability partner. It's about having a thought partner. As I said earlier, I believe all the answers are already within us. A lot of times we just don't know the right question. So a coach actually sits in a position to ask you the right question. As opposed to when I'm doing consulting work, it really is about helping those organizations figure out for themselves how to navigate and to adjust the culture of the organization, how to allow people to really activate their superpowers, I would
Yeah.
say. We say that all the time at the Department of Labor: activate your superpower. What is your strength? And so I think that makes the work different. I have a variety of experiences on a technical level, but also understanding that a lot of the challenges that leaders face are not technical. They're adaptive. They're about relationships. They're about how do you really get the best out of folks who work with you, who work under you, who work above you.
Yes, that's very important to know how to manage that, because sometimes people manage themselves like by emotions, and you have to be really careful with that. Now, I'm sure a lot of people are wondering, why should I hire a coach or consultant at this point? What would you say to someone who's on the fence about hiring a coach, or thinks that is something that they need to know about this? Because
That that's a
I
great.
mean, me myself, I like, why would I hire a coach? I know you've been talking and explaining a lot of it, but tell us a little more.
I think that's a great question. I get a lot of people ask me that exact question. Um, and I think the thinking is, I've made it this far on my own.
Right.
Why do I really need a coach or consultant? I can do this on my own. And my response would be, even the best athletes, the best executives, the best leaders, they all have coaches. We
Yeah.
all know what we know, but a lot of times we don't know what we don't know, right? So you have blind spots. And if you're going to be successful and continue to be successful, you need someone to help you to identify those, but also to maximize your strengths, right? The working with a coach could actually be transformative, like it was with me. A coach can give you perspective, help you to step outside of yourself and see it from the other side. If you're supervising other folks and you're having challenges, a lot of times because you're in the day-to-day operations, you don't see it from your subordinate side, or you don't see it from the superior, from your higher ups. If you have senior leaders, you don't see it from their perspective. A coach could help you to gain some of that perspective and just create space to really get clarity on your own thoughts and insights to take the next step in your journey.
Love it. That's pretty good. And that's something that I feel like anybody needs, like you said, like a sportsman, like basketball player needs a coach. We all need somebody coaching us, and so we can achieve our goals and inspirations. What do you think is the most important trait for someone stepping into a leadership role?
Whew, that's an interesting because there's
Yes, because
so.
not everybody, have those traits, or like, when they hire people, they want to find like this specific traits, or something that people should be working on to develop if they want to be a leader, kind of.
If I have to choose one, because I love this question because there could be so many. If I have to choose one, I would say self-awareness.
Okay.
I know there are a lot of other things, but I think great leaders have insight, and there are two pieces to that. And I think this is what my coach did for me early on. So leaders don't only focus on introspection on the inside, which that is one part. First, figuring out, do I know myself? Do I know my strengths? Do I know my blind spots? Why am I reacting or responding to certain people in certain ways? Knowing my triggers, like I learn triggers, right? So a part of self awareness allows you to do that. But self awareness is not just inside. I believe self awareness also comes from some of the things you do externally. So asking other people, what can I do better as a leader? How is this coming across? Is it landing the way I intended it to land? And when people give you feedback, actually act on it, right? So if you're really trying to have some self-awareness and grow and build, you have to ask for that feedback, but you have to be willing to act on it. You have to do something about it.
There's something, and that's the kind of like the hard part. Like, even as a technician, just like getting feedback is important to me to get feedback, but it's also kind of like, nerve wracking. And then once you get it, trying to figure out how to implement the changes, because you have certain routines going on and you have certain ways that you do things. You have to figure out how to implement those new changes.
Yeah,
for sure.
and the challenge is, the honest truth is sometimes you ask for feedback, and when you hear it, I don't know if you had this experience, your heart
Yes.
beats fast. Like you get that anxiety of, oh my God, they really told me I'm doing something wrong. But really, it means that that person cares enough about you to be honest and to let you know. So one example I always talk about, And I used to say this when I was working in philanthropy. Um, you can walk around. Have you ever had a salad and you're walking around all day and you're smiling and you have all these people you work with and not one of them told you you had a piece of lettuce right in the middle, in the front, right? So it's almost like they don't even care enough
It's
to
not
say that.
out
But that
there.
one person will say, oh my God, girl, you have some lettuce right in the front. And
Yeah.
your heart is beating because, and then you start to think, how many people allowed me to walk around
With
with that lettuce
yes.
that didn't say anything, right? So the person who is willing to be honest, while it may hurt or cause your heart to beat a little faster, that's the person who I would want to keep in my circle because
Yes.
they're actually going to allow me to grow and tell me the truth.
That is so true. I truly appreciate that. That's kind of like I am. I do want feedback, but I do get that heartbeat when I'm getting it, and I'm like, control yourself. You're gonna be okay. This is gonna make you better. This is gonna make you stronger. And then once I get it, like I said, I just figure out which way I'm gonna implement the feedback. Now, can you share a few strategies for leaders or employees looking for to find a better balance in their lives? So that's like a very important one.
Yeah, balance is really important. I think finding balance is the biggest challenge, and I think it's certain points in your career where it's a bigger challenge than in others, right? I think you have to be intentional about balance. So I'll say three, maybe four um, strategies I would recommend. First is prioritize with purpose. We always have a lot to do. Either if you're growing or emerging leaders, you're going to always have a list of things to do at work. But you may also have a list of things to do at home if you're a parent, if you're a spouse. You also have friends and you have a social life. So I think what you have to do is prioritize what you're doing. As you know, when I got my dissertation, when I got my PhD, my dissertation was really focused on the 80-20 principles. So I truly believe in focusing on 20% of the items on your things to do list
Mm-hmm.
because they're probably going to get you 80% of the impact. So you
Wow.
really have to prioritize with purpose and not try to do 80% of the things that really only impacts 20% of your outcomes. So the
Oh,
80-20 principle is really important when you're trying to do prioritize. I think the second would be to set priorities and boundaries, and you have to honor them. So if you say, you know what, I'm going to work, I'm not going to work after 6 o'clock, don't work after 6 o'clock, right?
right.
You have to honor that. Or you say for the next 2 weeks, I'm going to go all in. And then that third week, I'm going to have a 3-day work week no matter what so that I can recuperate because your body
Exactly.
needs it, your brain needs it,
Yeah.
your family needs it, they need extra time. So you set those boundaries and you honor them. And I think for yourself, Murderland, and you know I'm all about this, it's putting yourself in your calendar. For
Oh,
me, if it's not in my schedule, it's not gonna it's
then,
just not gonna happen. So whether it's getting my locks tightened, getting my manicure, going get a massage, it goes into the calendar right after I finish the last appointment and then you make it happen. But if it's not in your calendar, it's not gonna happen. So those would be, I think, the top three. One that I think more leaders or emerging leaders struggle with is saying no without guilt. If
oh, that's
someone asks
a,
you to do something and you really don't have the time, you don't have to feel guilty. Like, oh, this is my weekend to lay in and rest. Sorry. Nope. You don't have to feel guilty
and
about it.
yeah, I think that's a big one for real.
Yeah.
Saying no to people and not take. I think in the beginning you kind of want to say yes to everybody, but then you really have to look at that and make sure you take that space. And if you have commitment with your family, to just honor that
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So those would be, I think, the top four. I think I laid out. Those would be the top four. But that one about saying no is really, I
Mm-hmm.
think, for a lot of people, it's difficult, especially if you have the personality where you are a people pleaser. So you
Yeah.
don't want to say no. And so you say yeah to five people and you're running around, you're late to every event, you're exhausted, you can't be present and enjoy yourself. So I think we should practice saying no and feeling good about I
So,
just can't do it this.
yes, and taking that time for yourself, very important to maintain your balance.
Yeah.
Now, for someone considering working with Diamond Consultant, what can they expect from the process? How does it
They
go?
can, they can expect you can't expect all of this because one of the things, if you are looking to, whether it's getting coaching or you're working with consulting, or I'm working with you on a consulting for
Yeah.
a project, I think there are four steps that I would lay out for the typical person. So if you were working with me, the first thing is a discovery and deep dive. Like we will have a conversation to understand what your challenges are, what your goals are, and what's your vision. You have no idea, Merlin, how many people have not stopped to really establish the vision of themselves as a whole or of themselves as a professional. So, what's your vision for that? So, just going in deep because each engagement is tailored to my client. So, I want to make sure I understand exactly what they want, what they expect, and to be transparent and honest about what we may be able to accomplish during an engagement. The second would be after we've done that, we're going to do some assessments and some strategy.
Okay.
Like, how are we going to get there? How long will it take for you to see the results? This work is
Oh,
truly about
important.
transforming. It's about transforming. So, in order to do that, it's going to be incremental. It takes time, it takes practice to learn these new tools. Like to say no, you're going to have to practice doing that. You have to actually say, okay, if I say no, you would not believe how many questions.
You get scared too from saying no. You get some people like, especially the people pleasing type. My sister, I think I consider her kind of like people pleasing. I think she gets nervous if she has to say no. I'm kind of like in between where I want to say yes most of the time, but I know when I have to say no. But
Yes.
sometimes I do say yes too much, and then I am like overworked and stressed.
Yeah, yeah. So a part of so that in order to do that, it takes time because you're not going to change overnight, and you don't want to do any drastic things that may hurt your relationships in the long run. So the assessment and the strategy sessions really help. And then we move into implementation and action, like really begin to build your arsenal, your tools on how do you begin to see yourself
Hmm.
where you want to be. How do you, if your goal is to be a millionaire, how do you start living like a millionaire today?
Oh,
It's not what most people think. How do you begin to prepare for that lifestyle? How do you begin to prepare to be the next vice president or president of your organization? So you work for the job you want, not for the job you're in,
okay.
right? So how do we do that implementation? And then finally, it's about that accountability and growth, like making sure that if you've identified strategies to grow, that you really are implementing. And me or another coach who may be working with me will act as your accountability partner. So I think those are the four things that you can expect, but it's
Okay.
work. It could be weekly. Some of my clients have weekly, some have once a month. Um, and depending on the package, we may have like intermittent calls, but that's work over time that we
Okay. You
focus
have like
on.
different packages that people could choose from, and depending on their needs.
Yes.
I like that.
Yeah.
So, what do you think? And this will be like the last question about the business. We'll move on. What do you think is the biggest challenge leaders or organizations face today, and how do you help address that?
That's an interesting question. And I think what makes that question interesting is that you said what it is today. And I think if I think about me and what
Yeah.
I'm faced with and what I'm hearing is that a lot of leaders are navigating through times of uncertainty. Like there's chaos all around us. And what leaders do not like, what businesses do not like, is uncertainty.
Yeah.
Like we like to know exactly what to expect in our business, how income is coming in, how it's going out, how to work with our staff or our partners. But this is such a time of uncertainty that I believe working with clients right now is really around how do you navigate this uncertainty but still maintain a sense of clarity and purpose around your work. So if you know exactly what you're aiming to do and why you're doing it, I think that's one thing. What leaders have to do more is to be a little bit more flexible, to be able to pivot when needed. Just because things are so uncertain, I talked to someone today and we were talking about the instability in funding for nonprofits right now. There's just no way to guess what's going to happen tomorrow or what's going to happen next week. And so you have to be able to still lead with some sense of clarity and purpose and be able to pivot when necessary. But I think the biggest challenge is we're in such a chaotic environment that many leaders are really struggling with that.
Yes, I can understand that for sure. Now, for those who want to learn more about your work, how can they get in touch with your and find out more about your work? How can they, reach out to you?
Yeah. So DM me. Or if you're on the line and you're interested, DM me. You can contact me on Instagram, Facebook. We'll drop it in the chat. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. You can also go to diamondconsultantsllc.com. That's my website. So those are the ways I think are the best ways to get in touch with me, and I will respond as soon as possible.
Yeah, we'll put it on the description once we upload this video. So make sure if you're not following Tammi, make sure you're following Tammi. If you're not following me yet, make sure you're following me. Now let's talk as we come closer to the end. Let's talk a little bit about the pageant world. For those of you who don't know, Tammi was Mrs. Sharon Hill 2022. She won Pennsylvania Fabulous Face and advanced to the semifinals, placing third runner-up. How was your experience with the pageant?
Oh my God, every time we talk about the pageant, I laugh. I am, without a doubt, the most unlikely pageant queen you ever met. But when I signed up, it was right after the pandemic. We were right coming out of the pandemic. And I just wanted to get out, and I said, I'm going to do a couple of things that's out of character for me. What I did not realize was how much those beauty queens give back to their community. Yeah. Like, I did not have any idea about the fabulousness of all of those women and how much they actually give back to their communities and their cause. Each queen actually champions a cause, and they do work for whether it's kids, whether it is elderly. My area I focus on young people transitioning from foster care. So that was an eye-opening experience for me to learn the background of the pageant and not just what's happening on stage.
Yes, it was amazing for me too. It's like, and meeting all these amazing women
I was like overwhelmed, but they are like extremely nice on top of it. I remember when we did it, it was like I was not sure of doing it at that point, and I looked at you. I'm like, "Do you want to do it?" And then you were like, "If you do it, I'll do it."
I didn't think you were going to do it though. And then you
No,
said, okay.
I'm like, "If you're gonna do it, I'll do it with you."
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it was
yeah.
an amazing experience. I definitely am glad that we did it together, and it was so much fun. The whole process and the whole excitement and going out with our sashes and stuff.
Yeah.
Now, with looking back at the pageant experience, what do you hold the most dear?
I think it was the experience of working with the young people who were transitioning from foster care. I remember we did the prom event
Yes,
for the prom dresses and the tux, and of course, everybody was excited about getting their dress or the gift certificates for the nails and the shoes and the hair or what have you. But I think what I cherished the most was the conversation with those parents who brought the young
yes,
people, and to hear their stories about the resilience they were going through because of the pandemic and the challenges they were having, whether that was financially or socially, but they wanted the best for their
yes.
kids. And I think I remember I have a lot of pictures from with me and some of those parents, and I think that's the moments I cherish the most. That I knew that we did something that was really meaningful for those families.
Yes, it was amazing to see the girls' faces once they found their prom dress. It was fun. It's just like it fills your heart. You know, you're like doing something meaningful, like you said.
Yeah.
Now it was really cool. Thank you so much for that opportunity because I know you worked really hard with the community there.
Yeah, yeah, that was a great experience. Again, I think what people don't know is the behind the scenes of pageant life. And it was just so eye-opening to find out, all the work that you've been doing. And I only did it once, and I know you've done it a couple of times, and I just kudos to you for all the work and all the appearances and really working with the other ladies and learning about their causes. It was really a great experience for me.
It was. Now, as we wrapped up, it's been great talking to you, by the way. Thank you so much for coming into the show. Um, as we wrap up today, our live session, could you share some words of wisdom to the audience?
Whew. What I would say is trust the journey. Trust the journey. Embrace growth that comes from challenges. I think the places where I've grown the most
Yeah.
is actually in the spaces where I've had the most challenges. I think a lot
Mhm.
of us like to think of, I want to be able to go to a job and have no stress and just do the work. But if that happens, if you're not challenged, you're not growing.
Okay.
It means that you're sort of you may want that. May want to be in a stable position, but a lot of people who get leadership coaches or executive coaches, it's because they want to grow. And you
Sure.
don't have to be a leader. You can actually you don't have to be an executive. You can get a leadership coach right now. It does. If you're 18, my youngest client is 20, and she is being coached every week right now. So you don't have to be an executive. She wants to be an executive, and she wants to start her journey early. So she has been afforded the opportunity to work with me over the next 3 months. But embrace the journey. A lot of us focus on, I want to be here. I want to be the president of my company. But there's a lot of things that happens before you get there that will help you to be better prepared to be that executive. So embrace those
Okay.
challenges and know they're meant for you to grow. And once you do that, I think you'll remember that you're more capable than what you ever thought you were. You're more capable. You can handle a lot more things than what you may assume, and embrace your strengths. A part of our earlier conversation is about self awareness, and I think everybody should work on that character trait. Like the more you know what you're strong at,
Yeah.
and the more you know where your challenges are, you can cover your blind spots. I know that's not my strength. So I'm going to pull somebody in who can cover that blind spot for me. So I just think you have to embrace the journey, embrace the challenges, and keep moving forward.
I love it. Keep moving forward, everyone, and let's embrace our journey. Even though we have like the hardest part coming in and out, like just embrace it and let's keep moving forward. I love it. Thank you again.
Thank
I
you.
loved our talk. I'll see you soon, and kisses.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone, for joining, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Like